people have a lag time of about 2 minutes before they forget that you even exist. Something you've got to remind yourself if you're doing vlogs and you get nervous. So today, I just want to talk about the importance of habits and routine and skills. So the main thing is, a successful person, you can find them doing the same thing every day at the same time, almost as if they're completing a circuit for the day. It's interesting. One of the things that Patrick David goes on about a lot, you should check him out, and some of his entrepreneur tips is just that repetition of a timetable of something that you've chosen that's moving you forward into the direction that you want to do. So, it's important to, even if you don't complete the task at the best of your ability, it's important for you just to do it, just to keep up the habit. But then when you're really feeling on it, you obviously do the habit to the best of your ability. So you've got to use your habits to try and increase the competency of certain skills, and especially those skills that are beneficial to how you want to live your life and where you want to end up in life. So, whether that's health related or whether it's money related, when it comes to money, the most important thing is to actually treat it as if it's a sport. So, if you're wanting to be a really good swimmer, for example, how do you think you're going to do that? Are you going to just turn up to a race one day and just wing it and then think that you're going to do really well and you're going to outcompete the people who've been training? Or are you going to set yourself a training regimen of practicing or of learning? One thing is, people want to go into a certain trade or skill without doing any pre-research or learning. Ask yourself, how do the best of the best in a certain area where you want to make money, how did they learn how to do that? Well, there's a few different routes you can do it. It depends on what exactly it is, but you can do it through university. You can do it through being an autodidact, which is self-taught, or you can do it by just jumping in the deep end with a job, essentially, and then getting yourself surrounded by people who are doing the same thing, learning from them, or getting a mentor, that kind of thing. But it depends on your personality. If you're a little bit of a maybe introvert or something like that, there's nothing wrong with getting a Udemy course or something like that. Going on YouTube. I'll tell you what, Udemy is definitely underrated in terms of what you can learn on there, in terms of ROI, return on income. So most Udemy courses are around about 16 quid, 14 quid for hours of content. So if you wanted to learn how to learn a high income skill like SEO or Google pay-per-click or things like that, the amount of things that you can find on Udemy or sites similar. The thing is with YouTube is that they're just full of fluff. They're full of fluff. You can get courses on YouTube. Now again, you might find a rare one, but what they're trying to do is they're trying to cram in a whole skill's worth of content into 2 hours. It's usually just basics, or it's usually just full of fluff keywords to try and rank themselves higher on the YouTube or Google algorithm to get more views. So is it really tailored for an actual learning experience? Probably not. Probably the best thing to go on is something like a paid learning course that get the money through you actually paying for it rather than getting the money through views. And with Udemy, you get 14 hours or 30 hours of content by some geezer from Birmingham who's made £10 million and kept it to himself, and you get to learn directly from him. But when learning a skill that's going to make you money, it's like learning a language or learning a sport. It's better to do 15 minutes to an hour daily over a long period of time, rather than try and do it all in one sitting. If you're trying to learn how to be a shit hot SEO marketer in 12 hours straight, it's probably not going to happen, just in terms of like how your brain works and things like that. When it comes to learning and memory, you need sleep for it to cement in. So you do the habit, you learn it again, you cement it in with sleep. You do the habit next day, you cement it in with sleep again, and the cycle continues for probably 2 years. And then eventually you start getting to a moderate level whereby you're doing things that you just know intuitively. And if you compared that version of you to the start version of you, you won't realise how far you've come. It's essentially the same as, a little story. Just had a daughter 7 weeks ago, and I was still assuming she looked like a new newborn, because she's only 7 weeks old, so any progress, it's hard to kind of keep up if you've seen them every day. But I saw a newborn that was 2 days old today, and I was like in shock how small he was. And I was looking, and he came out heavier and bigger than my daughter. So my daughter was smaller than that when she first came out. So, you don't realise the progress you're making. Like, if you want to use that as an analogy, when you're first starting, you're essentially a newborn, and in 7 weeks, you'll have picked up something you won't even realise, because you're still a baby, but you're progressing. Okay? And there's also a thing where the amount of effort you put into something has exponential returns. So, for example, if you're looking at my videos on this YouTube, you'll see that I'm not really putting a lot of effort in it right now. I'm just experimenting, learning. It's pretty basic, it's pretty naff. Like, thumbnails are crap, not really getting a click-through rate, and any click-through rate. There's basically, I'm getting about 1 or 2 seconds of watch time before they leave, so I'm clearly not gripping anyone's attention. But it's fine, because this is all part of the process. I understand I'm not going to be very good right now, but I'm going to keep the habit up, maybe learn things on the side. And to be quite honest, I've probably not put in I've intentionally not put in the effort to get the habit there, because sometimes when you put in too much effort from the start, you can get overwhelmed and burn out before you even get anywhere. So I'm just trying to do it really casually, because it's something that I enjoy doing. Also, when it comes to habits, like, I go on a night walk every night, or 95% of the time, and it's a perfect time for me to whip out the camera and start talking and doing this. So get the health in, get the exercise in, and I also get the content in as well. So if you learn, if you read into Atomic Habits, it'll tell you there about like stacking habits, so things get more ingrained into your system. And then when it comes to exponential effort, so like, if you put just arbitrarily, if you half-assed it, let's say half-assed it is putting like 30% of your effort into something, you're not going to get 30% of the result. If you were to compare that to 100% effort, you're probably going to get 5% of the result if you were to put 100% effort in. If you were to put 90% effort in, you'd probably get, 92% or something like that. But then if you were to put 93%, you probably get 95%. And then when you get higher, the more percentages that you increase in effort, the more of a return that you get. And when you get lower, the less return you get, if that makes any sense. So it's worth actually being conscientious and putting effort into things that you want to get better at. Preferably once the habit has been formed. So, the thing is, in life, everyone always wants to go on about equality and all that kind of stuff, which it's a given that everyone under the law needs to be equal. But when it comes to reality, people aren't equal, and if you've ever done a sport, you'd find out this relatively quickly. There's some people who have talent, who can just half-ass it, and they will be better than the majority of the field. And then there's people who absolutely try as hard as they can and don't get anywhere. Okay, that's the cold, hard truth of reality. But over time, you do see that the people who have the hard-working habits over 8 or 10 years, rather than just a 2 or 3 year span, tend to, in life in general, tend to excel more because they've got that ability to work hard, and then they'll cycle through things. Like, they'll work hard at something and it might just fail, but it depends on how easy you want to give up at something as well to move on to the next thing. But if you've tried and you spent 10 years at this one thing and you just failed and you can't get any better, and then you switch to something else and then you start the process again, you might absolutely fly, because some things are made for you and some things aren't. And it's good to follow your intuition on that matter, actually, because your intuition can guide you pretty heavily. So yeah, and when it comes to making money as well, you've got to think, in your field that you want to make money, how many people are you actually competing against? Because you might think, for example, dropshipping, you might be like, oh, everyone's dropshipping, there's no point even doing it, because that's what you hear. But it's like, ask yourself, how many people do you personally know that is doing that? And apply that to anything that you want to, like, if you want to go into, fintech, if you want to go into insurance broking, if you want to go into being a NASCAR driver, or whatever it is that floats your boat, how many people do you know that are doing that? So it doesn't matter what you pick, pretty much no one will be doing it unless it's eating or sleeping, and try and optimize that. Good luck trying to be the best sleeper in the world, because everyone's doing it. But automatically that narrows your field of competition down to the people that have the bottle to even try and attempt to do what you want to do. Okay, which you can argue might make it harder, because you're now competing against people who do have the bottle to do it, which is fair enough. But in terms of market share, that's exponential. But you as soon as you start, you will get some of the market share, and it can only go up from there. Like, if you're wanting to sell stuff or you're wanting to get views, after your first view, you technically have a bit of a market share, whether it's 0.00000 recurring 1, which is 0, I know. But if you get 0.0001% of the market, you have some market share. Okay, now you're in the market, now you're competing, now you just got to figure out, how do I train to get better? Well, you habitualize practicing / learning about the skill. And if you read the book Mastery by Robert Greene, I read it in uni a good long time ago, and you know that boredom is a factor that masters have to go through. Like, if you think that Leonardo da Vinci was absolutely punching the air with enthusiasm every time he practiced drawing a leaf, you've got to be crazy, you know? He will have gone through painstaking boredom and practice, and that's how you become a master. And obviously those who have started at a younger age get a head start, because you've got that more of that neuroplasticity, more of that developing brains to take advantage of foundations. But it doesn't matter how old you are, there's neuroplasticity in the brain, and you can always learn new skills. It's one of the beauties about being human. You know, if you look into Andrew Huberman, go and look into his YouTube videos about neuroplasticity and how to stimulate this. If you want to change habits, or if you want to learn stuff, you know, essentially, you've also got to find out, what is your method of learning? Like, are you a visual learner? Are you a auditory learner? Or are you a doer learner? So I know, bear with me, I'm going through a dark bit for a while, so if you can't see my face, you know why. But for me, for example, I'm a visual learner and a doer. Like, I'm the mix of the two. But it's quite hard for things to go in my brain, but once it's in, it doesn't really ever go. I kind of just understand it on an intuitive level. And the way you can figure this out is, like, if you were to imagine, how to get to a place, are you trying to, or if you got given a question, it's like, okay, give me the directions to get to your town hall, what instantly comes into your head? Is it road names, or is it a visual image of the roads? And, you know, or is it, do you have to talk it through to yourself, you know? And these are all clues on how you remember things. Like, for me, I'd instantly go to images, which isn't very good when you want to remember things like names and things like that, because it just doesn't go in. But, like, I remember people's faces and streets and buildings and roads and things like that, landmarks. But the key today is just for me to highlight, you've got to habitually learn a skill, like you are training for a sport to become better. Now, that sounds really obvious, but were you doing that before you watched this video? Hopefully you were, but if you weren't, you should start today.